So we've now gone through 3 hours of proving, and our bread looks a little bit like this. I'll show you there. Twice the size, nice and large. So what we need to do now is we're going to get the bread out of the bowl, the dough out of the bowl, and hopefully when we put olive oil on before, it will help it move, which is good. This is what it's done. And then what we're going to do is what they call knocking it back. Now, we need to be a little bit gentle with this because we want to keep some of the air in. So all I'm going to do is just literally pull it up, and it'll be a bit sticky, but don't worry about it. Pull it up and just fold it in at the corners like this. Yeah, pull it round, just pick up the dough, just pop it in. I'm only going to do it a couple of times because, as I say, I don't really want to lose a lot of the air. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just pull it tight again like we did before, you remember, with the arms there. Just pull it tight a bit, just pull it in, there we go. Now then, you can do one or two things here. I've got a rattan dish here that has a lovely pattern on there and helps the dough keep its shape when it's in the bowl, but the bowl that we're using to prove could also be used as well. But the difference is, and I'm just going to put a little bit of flour, I'm just going to dust the inside of the rattan dish so it will stop the dough sticking there. Literally dust it and also make the bread look a bit nicer as well. The difference is what you're going to do when you put it back in the bowl is it's going to go back upside down. So as you pull it back, you want to be dropping it in the middle, upside down. Okay? Now, with the rattan dish, it's important, there's a lid that comes with this, a cloth lid. Just make sure it's wet, run it under the tap, and then you are literally going to pull that over the top. And again, time for it to expand. You're going to need to leave it for another 2 hours now. So it's going to need to, all the air that we've pushed out is going to come back, but the dough is going to rise into the shape of the bowl, it's going to look lovely, and then it'll be ready to go in the oven. Same if you use this bowl, you'll just put it in upside down, cling film over the top, leave it for another 2 hours, and then we'll be ready to go and put it in the oven. So we now have our dough, it's finally proved. I'll take the damp cloth off the top, and you can see again how much it's expanded again, so we're good to go. Now then, what we need to do is we've got to get this dough into our pot. So this is a cast iron casserole dish. I've cut some greaseproof paper that will sit in the bottom just to protect the bottom of the loaf in the oven. But what I'm going to do is, because we know this is upside down, I'm going to pop the paper on the top of that and flip it. Give it a bit of a tap. Hopefully it will come out, which it has, and you get that lovely pattern on the top of the bread. Now, it's going to start expanding, so I want to get in the pot pretty quickly. I'm going to score the top of the bread. It's very important that we do this, because if you don't do this, the bread will split. And what you've got to do is allow the bread to breathe and allow that. So the split down the middle stops the loaf cracking. And this is a very sharp knife, but I would use one of these if you can. Okay, so it's ready to go in now. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to lift it, put it in the pot. There we go, sit in the pot nicely. I am going to give it just a little bit of a spray of just fresh water. Not much, just enough to put some water in the pot, because the water will help it cook. So we're good to go. Lid goes on. Now you want your oven as hot as possible. So I currently have mine at around about 260 degrees, and it's going to go in here for half an hour with the lid on. So I'm going to pop in the pot in the oven for half an hour, and then after half an hour I'm going to take the lid off and I'm going to cook it for another 20 minutes, but on a slightly lower setting. So we'll come back after this when I put it in the oven for half an hour. Okay, so the loaf's been in the oven for 30 minutes, and now it's time to take the lid off, because what we want to do now is we want the crust that's formed to start getting a little bit harder and a little bit browner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out of the oven and show you what it looks like. Normally I would just take the lid off. Very hot oven. Shut the oven door to keep the heat in and turn it down to about 220. Take the lid off. You'll now see that it's quite a nice brown colour, so it's lovely. I'm going to put it back in because I don't want to let it cool down while I'm talking. Now that's going to go back in the oven for about 20 minutes, and what will happen is the dough will still be cooking in the middle, so even though it looks like it's ready, it'll still be raw in the middle, and it leaves another 20 minutes, so it'll go a little bit darker. Now the thing to be mindful of is every oven is different, so your cooking time will be different and you will find your level. So the original recipe was 30 minutes with the lid on and 30 minutes with the lid off, but my oven was burning the loaf after 30 minutes and I had to reduce the time and slightly reduce the temperature. What I would do, first 30 minutes, nice and high, lid on, no problem. Then I would leave it with the lid off, turn the temperature down maybe to about 220, 230, and just keep an eye on it. Set your alarm on your phone for 15 minutes, keep an eye on it, looking like it's okay, fine. 15, 20 minutes, if your oven's warm enough, it should be lovely. So we'll see what it looks like when it comes out. So, 20 minutes up, I'm going to get the loaf out of the oven and see how we get on. There we go. All done. Now, the trick with sourdough is to leave it to cool. Unlike most breads, you can tuck into it hot. Sourdough, it's still cooking, so inside it will still be cooking through. So the best thing is to do now is to leave it till it cools down, probably fully, but you can still eat it while it's warm. It'll be warm for probably another 40 minutes or so. But as you can see, the split along the top that we cut with the razor blade, that's allowed the loaf to open without splitting around the sides. Nice and beautiful and bonny, so enjoy your sourdough.